difficult. So today I'm popping in because I've heard from a lot of people who are having trouble with the holidays and the idea of all this cooking and these new foods. If you're on a restricted diet and you're thinking, I just can't cook this way, forget it. I'm going to go with the tradition. I'm going to just have my regular food. So, hi, everybody. I'm Ricki Heller from rickiheller.com, and I'm a healthy food coach. I help people on restricted diets learn to love their food again so that they can eat the foods that let their bodies heal and they can get their lives back. And I know with the holidays coming up, it might be your first holiday on a restricted diet, or maybe you've had this experience before where you just know that the holidays are kind of a free for all and everything that you've been working so hard on during the year is just thrown away in terms of food. So I want to help you stick with it this year. And I just posted on Instagram this morning about how I actually, even though I cook pretty much everything from scratch now, I'm going to say 90%, 95% of what I eat is cooked from scratch. But I wasn't always that way. I grew up in a home where we were all bakers. I learned to bake when I was like 6 years old. But if it wasn't sweet, I wasn't interested. So when I moved in with my honey, and I was like almost 40 at the time, um, I didn't really know how to cook food. I knew how to bake and make desserts, but I didn't know how to cook food. So I had to learn. And then within, I think, less than a year, suddenly I was hit with the diagnosis of candida overgrowth, which meant I had to cut out meat, dairy, eggs, gluten, moldy foods, all sugars, at the time, all fruits, anything starchy and processed, artificial, all of it. So I ended up having to radically change my diet. Hey there, radically change my diet. And I was just learning how to cook. So I've come up with some tips that I think are really useful and can help you if you're making this transition. And I would also say useful even if you've gone through holidays before where you're on a restricted diet and you're worried that you're going to fall off during the holidays. So the first thing is, and I think this is probably the most important, is let's not reinvent the wheel. I was going to say the brie wheel, but that is such a cheesy joke. Oh my God, I can't stop myself. So yeah, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So if you're feeling like I have to learn how to cook all the things in time for the holidays, stop, take a breath, and think to yourself, well, there are experts out there who already know how to do this, who've already mastered this. So even though I was really, at the time, I had already been a professional baker, but I knew I wasn't a professional chef. So I went and I found cookbooks from people who were already gluten-free, egg-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, a little bit of each, perhaps one or two people with all. And then I picked and chose my recipes from people that I knew already had it down. So I wasn't learning it. I was just using their recipes. And that gave me time to acclimatize and learn and figure it out as I went along. So when doing that, what I'm going to say is I call it your Fab Five. And I used this for a long time for our meals every day. I picked my Fab Five recipes. So the top 5 recipes out of the ones that I experimented with and that I found from other sites, cookbooks, blogs, whatever. And then I just kind of rotated those. And once in a while, I would try something new. And the beauty of this is sort of in advance, you're going to have something you like. Now, I've got to say, the caveat with that is I'm the kind of person that likes to eat something different every day. And so if you're like that too, this isn't going to be your ideal way of eating for a couple of months because you're going to be repeating recipes probably more often than you would like, but it's the safe way to find what works for you. So I did that temporarily, knowing that eventually I was going to learn how to play with these ingredients myself and come up with my own recipes, which is what I have done. So my Fab Five, as I'm sort of cycling through those, the beauty of that is you're also not going out and buying a bunch of ingredients that are going to end up in the garbage, right? So when I first started and I went out and I bought rice flour and I bought, I can't even remember, amaranth flour and all these gluten-free flours because I thought, oh, I'm going to experiment, I'm going to use them all. Of course, it turns out I didn't even like some of them and I ended up throwing them away. Whereas once I had my recipes that I liked, I knew, oh, for me, buckwheat flour works really well. So I'm going to start playing with other recipes that have buckwheat buckwheat flour, for instance. So you can work it that way, and you're not wasting ingredients, and you can sort of experiment as you go. So going slowly, being patient with yourself, not expecting everything to change overnight, even though for so many of us, that's what we want to happen, but that isn't the way life works, and that isn't the way learning works. So doing it slowly, picking up one thing at a time. And so as you continue to cook, what you can do is buy one new ingredient a week, right? So I might buy a new kind of gluten-free flour. In my case, because I was cutting out so many foods that I was used to eating, virtually everything processed, I had to suddenly cut out. I would buy one new vegetable a week because I was really focusing on vegetables at the time. The first phase of the Candida diet is mostly vegetables, especially if you're plant-based. So I would buy a new vegetable every week. Try kohlrabi one week. Try collard greens another week. Try dandelion greens another week. It wasn't only greens that I was buying, but those are the ones that come to mind. And I found the ones that I liked and the ones I didn't, and then I could repeat those over and over. And then the last thing I'm going to say, the fourth tip I have for you around cooking in a new way for the holidays or anytime is have fun with it, right? Because now to me, cooking is a creative pursuit like any other. I play in the kitchen. I experiment in the kitchen. If you think of it like to be similar to something like painting or crafting or scrapbooking, you have fun. You try something new. If it doesn't work, you correct it. You do something else with it. You know, if you're painting and the blue doesn't look great in this corner, you paint over it, or you bring more blue into the other side of the painting. It's very, very similar with cooking. Once you relax into it, once you know the general tastes that you like, you can play a little bit with this ingredient or that ingredient. But that only comes after you have given yourself time to acclimatize and learn the ingredients and become familiar with them. And that's why I say starting out with those expert recipes where you don't have to do any work except follow the recipe. That's a great way to start. And then you're going to find that it becomes easier and easier and easier as you go along. So if this is something that interests you in terms of finding out how you can cook well for the holidays on your restricted diet, I'd love to know. I'm putting together a program that's going to help you and that's going to dive deep into how to cook sugar-free, gluten-free, egg-free, dairy-free, how to make those changes that you need to so that your recipes that you have been eating for maybe decades for the holidays, so that you can convert those and make them into something that you're happy to eat, that looks and tastes the same, but doesn't harm your health the way those original recipes would. If that's something that you'd be interested in learning about, please leave a comment here or DM me, and I'll be sure to let you know as soon as that information is available about when we're going to go live with that free program. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions for me, do leave them below. I'm just going to check the comments quickly before I go. I don't see any here, so sorry if there are comments, but they're not showing up on Facebook right now for some reason. I will come back as always and check the comments, and I hope to hear from you if this is something that you would be interested in pursuing further as we get closer to the holidays. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again next time.